It's a CBS 46 special. Juneteenth. Celebrate, commemorate, educate.
The great disconnect. There was no talking drum, no way to communicate.
Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom.
250,000 enslaved people doing slavery were now, by pen and paper, January 1st, 1863, free.
Juneteenth is the ability to have dignity in your life.
But they didn't know. They didn't know.
Juneteenth is I can breathe.
But in 1865, June 19th, General Gordon Granger rode into Galveston to say to Texas, these people are free.
My name is Christina Renzi, Sister Olafemi, storyteller.
But in 1867, the official Juneteenth celebration. But we know that our people were celebrating all along from 1865 until now.
Juneteenth, to me, is the awareness of how people were oppressed and are no longer oppressed, but were never oppressed in their spirits.
47 states celebrate right now. We celebrate June 19th, Juneteenth.
Welcome back. We're so happy you're with us. This is a historic Juneteenth this year. President Biden officially signing the paperwork declaring Juneteenth a federal holiday.
Yes, okay, man. I'm sorry, man.
Congressman Davis.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Because this is a really, really, really important moment in our history. By making Juneteenth a federal holiday, all Americans can feel the power of this day and learn from our history and celebrate progress and grapple with the distance we've come, but the distance we have to travel.
We must learn from our history, and we must teach our children our history, because it is part of our history. As a nation, it is part of American history.
Here in Georgia, some state lawmakers were pushing to recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday. And as CBS 46's Haley Mason reports, it was an uphill battle from the start.
Over the last year, the Juneteenth holiday has become a topic of education for some and continued commemoration for others, as states across the country began efforts to make June 19th an official holiday.
We celebrate our ancestors. It's a time to recognize their struggle.
Last summer, justice protests over the murder of George Floyd mounted across the country, and many began to wonder how the storied holiday, mainly honored in Texas, would be recognized on a broader scale at the height of a modern racial justice movement.
This celebration has taken on a national note.
Corporations and major banks began honoring the day.
Whether or not it is a genuine recognition or whether or not it's just an observance depends on the attitude, the behavior. It also depends on what they do beyond that celebration.
At the state capitol, lawmakers have been slow to make the move.
This isn't just for Black people. That's what I try to get people to understand. This is American history, just like the 4th of July is a day for American history.
State Representative Miriam Paris has been trying to pass legislation to make Juneteenth an official state holiday for more than a year now.
When I took this bill to some legislators, they very cavalierly told me that I don't think my constituents would be very interested in that, and refused to sign.
There's a resolution in the state Senate honoring Juneteenth, but no official law.
Session 2021, we couldn't even get a hearing in committee.
For the leaders pushing for the recognition, Juneteenth is more than a date on a calendar, but an expression of the country's growth and the continued challenge to build a more perfect union.
The conversation must continue, and it must go beyond a one-day celebration. The point of this is that we should know that we are still free.
Reporting in Atlanta, Haley Mason, CBS 46 News.
I'm telling you, these folks are not Atlantans, and they have come here with a very deliberate purpose, and that is to tear this city apart in different ways.
So
Atlanta didn't deserve this.
This is not a protest. This is not in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. This is chaos.
And I want them to understand that there's a better way to protest than to destroy things.
We as mothers, we are sick and we are fed up about burying our children. We gotta come together as a race to bury our children because they are treating us as black. Being black is a crime. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. It's not a crime.
Some painful moments. The protest in Atlanta last summer ran the gamut from peaceful to violent. But one thing it also did was force non-minorities out of their comfort zone. And many joined the fight for justice. We spoke with one woman, Hannah Cooper, who says she felt it compelled her to speak out.
Why was that sign "End White Supremacy" out in front of our house? You know, I think that it's incredibly important for white people to identify as white. It's really important for white people to take ownership of ending racism in this country. I've been so heartened by the Black Lives Matter movement, and I think that's vitally important. What has been, I think, a little maybe off about the white response is that we've seen ourselves often as like just kind of supporting efforts to end anti-Black racism instead of saying, this is like we create this problem and we benefit from systems of white supremacy and we need to take ownership of that problem and end it. See ourselves as the people who are responsible for ending white supremacy. And so for me, I'm trying to maybe broaden the perspective of my neighbors. My neighbors are mostly white. I'm trying to broaden the perspective of my neighbors and also remind myself that ending racism is really on our shoulders. The other thing I would say is that we have to relearn our history, right? The history that we learned growing up was wrong, right? And I think that we have to, it's incumbent on us to actually expand out beyond what we were taught in 5th grade, beyond what we were taught in our history classes in high school. We need to learn about the Atlanta riots in 1906, or, I think we're finally talking about the Tulsa massacre. We have to understand that those riots were, a huge part of how white supremacy was built and maintained. They're built into the fabric of this country. We have to know that history, I think, to really understand the magnitude of discrimination in this country and mobilize to end it.